My name is Dana Mercer, and I was 52 when my sister stood at our mother's memorial reception and accepted praise for sacrifices she had never made. I practically lived at Mom's house those last 2 years, Valerie told a circle of relatives beside the coffee urn. There were nights I thought I couldn't keep going, but you don't abandon your mother. I was 10 feet away, holding the blue home care binder that recorded every medication, meal, blood pressure reading, fall appointment, and overnight visit. 642 entries were written in my name. Valerie's name appeared 11 times. I did not interrupt her. I did not raise my voice or wave the binder like evidence in a courtroom. I simply carried it to my car, placed it on the passenger seat, and drove home before anyone noticed I had left. 3 weeks later, Valerie summoned the family to Mom's attorney's office, believing the binder had disappeared with the rest of the medical paperwork. She had no idea I had photographed every page. More importantly, she did not know why our mother had asked me to keep such careful records in the first place. At Calm Story House, we remember the quiet work families overlook. Subscribe and tell me whether silence protects peace or only protects the person lying. I am a pharmacy technician at a hospital outside Columbus, Ohio. For 24 years, I have spent my working days checking labels, dosages, refill dates, and patient names. A single incorrect number can hurt someone. A missing signature matters. That habit followed me into my mother's house. After Mom's first stroke in March 2023, she returned home with 7 prescriptions, a walker, and strict instructions not to be left alone overnight. Valerie attended the discharge meeting in a cream-colored coat and asked the nurse whether our mother would qualify for a handicapped parking placard. I asked how often Mom's blood pressure needed to be checked. Valerie said she would handle weekdays because her real estate schedule was flexible. I would cover evenings and weekends around my hospital shifts. That arrangement lasted 4 days. On the first Monday, Valerie texted at 3:17 p.m. Closing ran late. Can you swing by Mom's? I worked until 7, drove 34 minutes across town, reheated soup, sorted the evening pills, helped Mom shower, and slept on the recliner because she was afraid of falling again. The next morning, Valerie arrived carrying a blueberry muffin and announced, "See? We make a good team." Mom smiled because she wanted to believe her daughters were working together. I wanted to believe it too. That was my weakness. I kept treating Valerie's promises as if they were prescriptions, something that would eventually work if I followed the directions carefully enough. Over the next month, the blue binder filled with my handwriting. I recorded the time Mom took lisinopril, how much water she drank, and whether the swelling in her left ankle had worsened. Valerie recorded one lunch visit and wrote, "Mom seemed fine." When I asked her to take Tuesday nights, she sighed. "You're better at this medical stuff, Dana. I hand people sealed medication bags. I'm not a nurse, but you're the capable one." That phrase had followed me since childhood. The capable one did not need help. The capable one adjusted her schedule. The capable one understood when Valerie was overwhelmed, newly divorced, busy, heartbroken, dating again, or simply tired. By autumn, I had used all my paid leave. Valerie had started telling relatives that she was managing Mom's care. I heard it first from Aunt Lois, who called to thank me for helping Valerie whenever I could. That evening, I opened the blue binder and began counting my entries. I stopped at 89. Then I noticed something tucked into the back pocket, a photocopy of a caregiver reimbursement agreement bearing my mother's signature. The name typed beside primary family caregiver was not mine. It was Valerie's. Valerie was 3 years older than me, which meant she had always been allowed to be complicated while I was expected to be useful. When we were children, she was the talented one. She sang solos at church, wore our mother's costume jewelry, and cried dramatically whenever Dad tried to teach her long division. I was the child who remembered permission slips and knew which cabinet held the flashlight. Our father, Harold, traveled for a commercial roofing company. When he was home, he called Valerie my movie star and me the little foreman. At 11, I thought that was a compliment. By 16, I understood it meant nobody worried about whether I was tired. The summer after Valerie graduated high school, she borrowed Mom's car for what she said would be one afternoon. She returned after midnight with a dent above the rear wheel and no explanation beyond. A shopping cart must have hit it. Mom looked at me. "Dana, you're good with details. Call the insurance company tomorrow and find out what we need." Valerie went upstairs. That was how our family solved problems. Valerie created weather. I carried umbrellas. When Dad died suddenly in 2010, Valerie handled the visible grief. She chose the flowers, stood beside Mom at the funeral, and told everyone she would make sure our mother was never alone. I handled the death certificates, canceled his business cards, transferred the utilities, and spent 4 Saturdays sorting receipts for the estate attorney. Valerie posted a photograph of herself holding Mom's hand. Relatives praised her strength. I told myself the paperwork did not matter because Mom knew what I had done. That mistaken belief became the foundation of nearly every bad decision I made afterward. Mom was not cruel. She was frightened of conflict, especially conflict with Valerie. Valerie could withdraw affection with surgical precision. She would ignore calls for weeks, then return with a gift and behave as though everyone else had caused the distance. Mom hated being shut out, so she adjusted. We all adjusted. After the stroke, the pattern became more expensive. Valerie proposed that Mom pay whichever daughter missed work to care for her. The amount was modest, $18 an hour, drawn from Mom's long-term care account. Valerie said the arrangement would keep things fair and professional. I agreed because it sounded reasonable. At Mom's kitchen table, Valerie printed the caregiver agreement and slid it between us. We'll submit our own hours, she said. No need to make this complicated. I asked whether we should use the same log. Valerie tapped the blue binder. Fine, you record the medical details. I'll handle the financial side. Mom sat at the end of the table, rubbing her left thumb against her palm, a movement she made whenever she felt cornered. Both my girls are helping, she said quietly. Valerie smiled. Exactly. I should have read every page before Mom signed. Instead, I trusted Sister to add my name to the final copy. That was the decision I regretted most. 2 weeks later, Valerie sent me a photograph of the signature page and said the insurance company had approved everything. I was too tired to notice that the section listing authorized caregivers had been cropped out. For nearly a year, I continued documenting every visit while Valerie submitted the reimbursement forms. Whenever I asked about payment, she said the insurer was behind, the policy had a deductible, or Mom's account needed time to replenish. Don't worry, she told me. I'm keeping track. The capable one did not demand receipts from family, so I kept working. By the time I found the agreement in the binder, Mom's care account had already paid out more than $31,000. And according to the paperwork, every hour belonged to Valerie. I waited until the following Sunday to speak to Valerie. That delay was partly strategy and partly cowardice. I wanted to gather facts before accusing her, but I also knew that once I named what she had done, I could no longer pretend we were simply two exhausted daughters misunderstanding each other. Mom was asleep in her bedroom when Valerie arrived wearing tennis shoes and carrying takeout coffee. You sounded dramatic on the phone, she said, setting one cup on the counter. What's the emergency? I placed the caregiver agreement between us. She glanced at it, then reached for her coffee. Where did you find that? In the binder. That shouldn't have been in there. Not I can explain. Not there must be a mistake. Her first concern was that I had seen it. I pointed to her name. Why are you listed as the only caregiver? Because the insurer needed one primary contact. The form says primary paid caregiver. It's paperwork, Dana. How much have they reimbursed? She peeled the cardboard sleeve from her cup and flattened it against the table. I don't have the exact number in my head. I do. $31,416. Her eyes lifted. Working around medication orders had taught me that people became careful when they realized you had counted. Valerie leaned back. That money covered Mom's expenses. Which expenses? Food, household things. I buy her groceries. I pay for the prescription copays. I've replaced the shower chair, the bed rails, and the blood pressure monitor. You're not the only person who spends money here. No, I'm only the person whose hours you submitted under your name. Her mouth tightened. Then she used the phrase that had worked on me for decades. You're the capable one, Dana. You have a stable job. I'm self-employed. Missing a showing costs me actual income. I stared at her. I had missed 47 hospital shifts, most of them unpaid after my leave ran out. I had turned down a supervisor training program because it required evening availability. My manager had stopped asking whether I wanted extra hours. Valerie knew all of that. She simply did not count my losses because they happened quietly. You told me the claims were delayed, I said. They were delayed, and after they were paid, I was going to divide the money once everything settled. When? She stood and carried her untouched coffee to the sink. This is exactly why I didn't want you involved in the financial side. You get rigid about numbers. Numbers did not become rigid because they embarrassed someone. I opened the binder to the first page. I want copies of every claim, every deposit, and every expense paid from that account. You don't get to audit me. Then I'll ask the insurance company directly. She turned so quickly that coffee splashed against the stainless steel basin. You can't. You're not authorized. That was the moment the betrayal became larger than stolen wages. Valerie had not merely collected money for work I performed. She had deliberately structured the agreement so I could not see what she was doing. A floorboard creaked behind us. Mom stood in the hallway gripping her walker. Her face looked pale and suddenly much older. Valerie, she whispered. You said Dana didn't want to be paid. My sister closed her eyes. Mom looked at me. She said your hospital wouldn't allow it. I felt anger rise, hot and immediate, but Mom's hand was trembling on the walker. So I did the first useful thing I had done for myself in months. I took the blue binder home. That night, I photographed all 642 entries, scanned the agreement, and created a spreadsheet matching every date to my work schedule, text messages, grocery receipts, and pharmacy purchases. For the first time in our family, being capable would not mean absorbing the damage. It would mean documenting it. The spreadsheet did not make me feel powerful. It made me sick. I had expected to find inflated hours. Instead, I found entire days Valerie could not possibly have worked. She had claimed 10 hours on April 18, the day she attended a real estate conference in Cincinnati. Her social media page showed her smiling beneath a hotel banner at 9:12 that morning. She claimed an overnight shift on June 7, when I had slept beside Mom's bed after she developed a fever. The blue binder recorded my temperature checks at 11:40 p., 2:15 a.m., and 5:05 a.m. Valerie claimed every Thursday in August. Thursdays were my regular unpaid leave days. By the time I finished comparing the reimbursement dates, more than $27,000 of the payments were attached to hours I could document as mine. Another $4,000 had been labeled transportation, meal preparation, and medical errands. I had receipts for most of those too. I called the long-term care insurer the next morning during my break. The representative was polite, careful, and completely useless when she discovered I was not listed on Mom's authorization. "I understand your concern," she said, "but we can only discuss claims with the policyholder or her designated representative. My mother has difficulty speaking after her stroke. Then her legal representative may contact us." Her legal representative is the person submitting the false claims. There was a pause. The representative lowered her voice. "You can file a written fraud concern, but I can't release records to you." That was the practical wall in front of me. I had evidence of my own work, but I did not yet have Valerie's full submissions, bank statements, or the authority to challenge them on Mom's behalf. When I returned to Mom's house, Valerie was already there. She had arranged photographs across the dining room table. Herself taking Mom to lunch, herself adjusting a blanket, herself standing beside the walker at Thanksgiving. Aunt Lois sat across from her. Valerie looked up. "I was explaining how much coordination this has taken." Aunt Lois gave me a sympathetic smile. "Your sister says work keeps you from helping as much as you'd like." Mom stared at the table. I could have opened my phone and shown them everything. Instead, I asked Mom whether she had taken her noon medication. Valerie sighed. "See? Dana turns everything into a checklist." That afternoon, 3 relatives texted me separately. Each message had the same tone. Valerie was exhausted. Mom needed peace, and I should not create conflict over money. The story had already been distributed. Valerie was the devoted daughter. I was the resentful sister who appeared with accusations after the hard work was done. For 1 hour, I nearly believed silence would be easier. Then I found a folded bank notice beneath Mom's unopened mail. Her checking account was overdrawn by $1,842. The caregiver reimbursements had not been deposited into Mom's household account at all. They had gone into a separate account Valerie controlled under a financial power of attorney, signed 6 weeks after the stroke. When I asked Mom about it, she looked confused. Valerie said it was only so she could pay bills if I was sleeping. Did anyone explain that she could open accounts? Mom's fingers began rubbing her left thumb again. No. The next day, I filed the insurer's fraud form and requested a copy of the power of attorney from Mom's attorney. I expected resistance. Instead, his assistant called before lunch. "Mercer," she said, "Mr. Hanley would like to meet with you privately. Your mother left written instructions concerning the care records." For the first time, I understood that Mom had noticed more than Valerie believed, and she had been preparing for the day someone finally asked the right question. Martin Hanley's office occupied the 2nd floor of a converted brick house near downtown. The waiting room smelled faintly of furniture polish and old paper, and the clock above the receptionist's desk ran 4 minutes slow. I noticed because I noticed things that are supposed to be exact. Mr. Hanley was in his late 60s, with silver hair and a habit of removing his glasses before saying something difficult. He placed a sealed envelope on the desk between us. My name was written across the front in Mom's uneven handwriting. "She gave me this in October," he said. "She asked that I keep it until you contacted me about her care. Why didn't you call me? Your mother was competent to make her own decisions. She specifically asked me not to interfere unless you raised concerns independently." I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single sheet of yellow legal paper. "Dana, I know you are doing more than Valerie says. I am afraid if I challenge her, she will stop coming completely. Please keep writing everything down. I may need the truth later." Below that, Mom had listed 4 dates when Valerie asked her to sign documents she did not fully understand. The power of attorney was one of them. I read the note twice. Part of me felt relieved that Mom had seen me. Another part felt furious that she had allowed the arrangement to continue. "Mr. Hanley let the silence sit. Your mother can revoke the power of attorney," he said, "but she must understand what she is signing, and she must do it voluntarily. Can you recover the money?" "I can't promise that. The insurer may pursue repayment if it determines claims were false. Your mother may also have a civil claim, but evidence and recovery are different things. It was not rescue, it was a route." He helped me prepare a revocation document and a new authorization allowing both him and me to obtain the care account records. Mom signed them during a private meeting 2 days later after answering questions about the date, her finances, and what authority she wanted Valerie to lose. Valerie found out before sunset. She sent 14 messages. The first called me manipulative. The seventh said Mom was confused. The last said, "Fine, you take over everything." For the next 3 weeks, she did exactly what Mom had feared. She stopped visiting, worked full shifts, slept at Mom's house, and made mistakes from exhaustion. One morning, I packed my own lunch into Mom's refrigerator and drove to work carrying a container of pureed chicken intended for her dinner. My coworker, Denise Carver, stared at it in the break room. "That is the saddest casserole I've ever seen." I laughed harder than the joke deserved. Denise was a hospital billing specialist who had cared for her father after surgery. She helped me organize the insurer's claim codes and identify which reimbursements required separate proof of transportation or overnight care. She also said something I did not want to hear. "You keep proving Valerie failed," she told me, "but you're still arranging your whole life so nobody else has to step up." I went home angry because she was right. I hired a licensed home care aide for 3 mornings a week, even though the cost strained my savings. The first aide quit after 2 shifts when Mom refused to let her help with bathing. The agency charged me a cancellation fee, and I cried in my car, not from heartbreak, but because I had only $23 left until payday. That evening, Valerie called. "I can come back," she said softly. "We can forget the legal mess and handle this as sisters." For several seconds, surrender sounded like rest. Then I looked at Mom's yellow note beside the blue binder. "No," I said. "You can visit Mom. You cannot control her money." Valerie hung up. A week later, the insurer sent confirmation that the disputed claims were under formal review, and all future payments had been frozen. It was not repayment. But for the first time, the money had stopped moving. The new aide's name was Rochelle Benton. She was 58, practical, and entirely unimpressed by Mom's attempts to dismiss her. On their first morning together, Mom said, "Dana can help me bathe." Rochelle folded a clean towel over her arm. "Dana is at work, and I am already here wearing waterproof shoes." Mom stared at her for several seconds, then laughed. Within a month, Rochelle was coming 4 mornings a week. I returned to my regular schedule at the hospital, paid down the agency balance, and accepted the supervisor training position I had turned down the previous year. Mom still needed me, but she no longer needed every hour of me. That difference felt almost irresponsible at first. Then the insurer released the full claim file. It arrived electronically, 184 pages of timesheets, mileage forms, care summaries, and payment records. Valerie had submitted weekly logs using descriptions copied almost word for word from my blue binder. Assisted with evening medication, prepared low-sodium meal, monitored swelling in left ankle. She had even repeated my spelling error from a rushed entry in September. Compression stocking instead of compression stocking. Denise circled it on the printed page. That may be the first typo you've ever been grateful for. The strongest evidence, however, was not the copied language. It was the signatures. Every reimbursement form required the caregiver and the policyholder to sign. Valerie's signature appeared on all 86 forms. Mom's appeared on 11. The remaining 75 contained a version of her name, written with smooth, confident loops. Nothing like the shaky, uneven signature she had used after the stroke. Mr. Hanley advised Mom to sign an affidavit identifying which signatures were hers. The insurer assigned the matter to a special investigations examiner and requested repayment from Valerie while its review continued. News traveled through the family faster than any medical update ever had. Aunt Lois called me first. "Valerie says the insurance company is persecuting her over clerical mistakes. Forging Mom's name is not clerical. She says she signed with permission. Mom says she didn't." Aunt Lois became quiet. "Have you ever noticed how quickly relatives ask for peace when the truth requires them to reconsider the person they defended?" Valerie began visiting Mom again, always when someone else was present. She brought groceries, fresh flowers, and framed photographs. She never mentioned the frozen payments. Mom accepted the visits but kept her financial papers locked in a small fireproof box beside her bed. The brass key stayed on a cord around her wrist. One Thursday evening, Valerie found me replacing the batteries in Mom's blood pressure monitor. "You've made your point," she said. "I wasn't making a point. You got the money stopped. You got control. Everyone knows you're the hero now." "I don't control Mom's accounts. Mr. Hanley does." She looked toward the bedroom door. "Mom is getting worse. We shouldn't spend whatever time she has left fighting." The sentence landed exactly where she intended. Mom's latest scan had shown another narrowing artery. We all knew another stroke was possible. Valerie placed a cream envelope beside the blue binder. "I arranged a family meeting for Sunday," she said. "Aunt Lois, Uncle Raymond, Mr. Hanley, everyone. We settled the care plan, the money, all of it." On the front, in Valerie's neat handwriting, were the words, "For Mom's peace." I opened the envelope after she left. The meeting was not at Mom's house. It was at the office of Valerie's attorney. Valerie's attorney, Calvin Reeves, had arranged the conference room as though presentation could substitute for consent. There were bottled waters at every seat, yellow legal pads, and a plate of untouched pastries in the center of the table. Valerie sat beside him wearing navy blue, the color she chose whenever she wanted to appear reasonable. Mom remained home with Rochelle. Mr. Hanley had advised her not to attend until he understood what Valerie was proposing. Aunt Lois and Uncle Raymond sat across from me. Calvin folded his hands. Valerie wants to resolve this privately and avoid further damage to the family. He slid a 3-page agreement toward Mr. Hanley. Valerie would repay $12,000 to Mom's account over 5 years. In return, Mom would send a letter to the insurance company describing the disputed signatures as authorized. The fraud complaint would be withdrawn, and no family member would discuss the matter publicly. I read the document twice. The words were polished. The purpose was not. This asks Mom to take responsibility for forms she didn't sign, I said. Calvin offered a professional smile. It clarifies that Valerie acted according to her understanding of your mother's wishes. She understood Mom wanted her to forge 75 signatures. Valerie pressed her fingertips against the table. I signed because Mom's hand hurt. She knew I was handling things. Then why did you copy my care notes? Because you kept better notes. The honesty of that answer surprised me more than another denial would have. Aunt Lois shifted in her chair. Dana, $12,000 is a lot of money. Maybe accepting it would let everyone move forward. The insurer paid more than $31,000. Some of that covered legitimate care, Valerie said. I did visit, 11 times. Her face reddened. Then she lowered her voice. Mom may not have years left. Do you really want her last memories to be lawyers and investigations? There it was, the reasonable request hiding an old command. The capable one was expected to measure truth against everyone else's discomfort and decide truth cost too much. For one moment, I imagined signing. Valerie would resume visits. Aunt Lois would stop calling me vindictive. Mom might smile at both daughters in the same room again. Mr. Hanley placed his pen down. The decision belongs to your mother, he said. Valerie looked directly at me. But we both know who is influencing her. I closed the agreement. Mom can choose whether she wants contact with you, I said. She can choose whether repayment matters more than prosecution, but I will not ask her to lie. Calvin began explaining that no one was asking anyone to lie. I stood. My answer is no. Valerie's voice sharpened. You always have to be the capable one, don't you? I picked up the cream envelope she had labeled for Mom's piece. No, I said, I'm done being capable enough to carry what you did. The room went quiet. That evening, Valerie posted a long message online claiming I had isolated our vulnerable mother, seized control of her finances, and rejected a generous repayment offer because I wanted revenge. By morning, relatives I had not heard from in years were commenting beneath it. Then my hospital manager called. Someone had sent the accusation to the compliance department. The hospital placed me on administrative leave while compliance reviewed Valerie's accusation. My manager, Helen Price, spoke carefully during the meeting. No one is assuming wrongdoing, she said. But the complaint alleges you used your position to obtain medication records and control an elderly relative's finances. I never accessed Mom's hospital chart. I believe you. We still have to verify it. I surrendered my work badge and placed it on her desk. For 24 years, that badge had opened doors because I had earned trust. Watching it remain beneath Helen's hand felt worse than every online comment Valerie had posted. At home, I organized my defense the same way I had organized Mom's care: dates, names, receipts, and signatures. Mr. Hanley provided proof that I controlled Mom's financial account. The hospital's electronic records showed I had never opened her chart. Denise confirmed that every insurance document I reviewed had come directly from Mom's attorney. 9 days later, Helen returned my badge. The complaint was unsubstantiated, she said. There will be no disciplinary action. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I understood how close Valerie had come to taking the one part of my life she had never built for me. That evening, Mom asked to see her. Valerie arrived without flowers or photographs. She sat in the wooden chair beside Mom's bed and stared at the brass key hanging from Mom's wrist. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Mom said, "Why did you take the money?" Valerie's face changed. Not into innocence, into exhaustion. After her divorce, she explained, her commissions had become unreliable. She had refinanced her condo, fallen behind on taxes, and borrowed money from 2 credit cards. When the first caregiver reimbursement arrived, she intended to keep only enough to cover 1 mortgage payment. Then another payment came. And Dana had a salary, Valerie said. She had benefits. She was going to be all right. I nearly answered, but Mom raised her hand. You decided what she could afford to lose. Valerie looked down. For the first time, I saw the fear beneath her entitlement. She had spent most of her life performing success and had become terrified of anyone seeing the unpaid bills behind it. Understanding that did not erase what she had done. It only made the choice more human and therefore harder to dismiss as simple cruelty. Valerie leaned toward Mom. Tell the insurer you gave me permission. I'll repay what I can. We can still be a family. Mom touched the key at her wrist. You can still be my daughter, she said. But I will not become your excuse. Valerie cried then quietly and without drama. Part of me wanted to sit beside her. Part of me wanted to return to the old arrangement where I absorbed the consequences so everyone else could remain connected. That was the last temptation. After Valerie left, Mom asked Mr. Hanley to come the following morning. She signed a detailed statement identifying the 11 legitimate signatures, the care she remembered receiving, and the instructions she had given me to preserve the blue binder. She also recorded a short video in case her speech worsened. "I do not want Dana blamed for telling the truth," she said into Mr. Hanley's phone. Mom suffered another stroke 6 weeks later. She died on February 8, 2025, with Rochelle on one side of the bed and me on the other. The brass key was still around her wrist. At the memorial reception, Valerie told everyone she had cared for Mom alone. I carried the blue binder to my car. 3 weeks later, Mr. Hanley called both of us to his office for the formal estate meeting. Valerie believed we were there to discuss the house. I knew Mom's recorded statement would be played first. Hanley placed the blue binder in the center of his conference table. Valerie's eyes moved toward it, then away. Aunt Lois and Uncle Raymond had been invited because Mom named them as witnesses to the estate discussion. Rochelle sat near the window, holding the small fireproof box from Mom's bedroom. I had brought the brass key on the same cord Mom had worn around her wrist. Valerie's attorney attended by video. Mr. Hanley did not begin with the will. "Evelyn requested that we address the unresolved care dispute before discussing her estate," he said. He turned the monitor toward us and played Mom's recording. Her voice was slower than I remembered, but the words were clear. "Dana cared for me most days and many nights. Valerie helped sometimes, but she did not provide the hours she claimed. I asked Dana to keep the binder because I was afraid the truth would disappear if my memory did." Valerie's jaw tightened. Mom continued. "I stayed quiet too long because I feared losing one daughter. Instead, my silence allowed the other daughter to be used." Aunt Lois covered her mouth. Uncle Raymond stared at the table. When the recording ended, Valerie said she made that after Dana had isolated her. Rochelle turned from the window. "I was present that morning. Dana was at work." Valerie looked toward her. "You were paid by Dana." "I was paid through the care agency," Rochelle replied. "Your mother chose her own words." Mr. Hanley opened the binder. 642 care entries bear Dana's initials. 11 bear Valerie's. The insurer compared these records with 86 reimbursement forms submitted by Valerie. He distributed copies of the findings. The Special Investigations Unit had concluded that 75 forms contained unauthorized signatures and that most of the claimed care could not be verified. Valerie owed $28,740 in restitution after credit for document expenses and 11 legitimate visits. Her attorney's voice came through the speaker. "My client disputes the characterization of intentional fraud." Mr. Hanley nodded. "She may dispute it through the insurer's appeal process." Valerie pushed the papers away. "This family has decided I'm a criminal because Dana keeps better records." "No," I said. "The records show what each of us chose." She looked at Aunt Lois. "You know how much I loved Mom." Aunt Lois folded the cream agreement from our earlier meeting into quarters. "I know I defended you before I knew the facts," she said. "That was wrong." Uncle Raymond did not defend me. He only murmured that the entire situation was tragic. That was honest, at least. Valerie turned to me. "You got what you wanted. Everyone thinks you're the capable one." I placed the brass keys beside the binder. "You were right about one thing," I said. "I am capable. But I am no longer available to carry your consequences." The room became still. Mr. Hanley opened the fireproof box. Inside were Mom's signed affidavit, the original caregiver agreement, and a handwritten amendment to her estate instructions. The house would be sold. After medical debts and legal expenses, the remaining proceeds would be divided equally between Valerie and me, but Valerie's restitution debt to Mom would be deducted from her share and returned to the estate first. Mom had not disowned her. She had simply refused to make me pay twice. Valerie stared at the amendment for a long time. Then she asked, "So after all this, you still get half?" I closed the blue binder. "No," I said. "After all this, I get my name back." The house sold 4 months later for $286,000. After the mortgage balance, Mom's medical bills, attorney fees, and Valerie's restitution were settled, neither of us received enough money to transform our lives. That felt appropriate. Mom's estate did not rescue anyone. It simply corrected the final account as fairly as it could. Valerie appealed the insurer's decision, but withdrew after her attorney explained that the copied notes, false signatures, and travel records would be difficult to challenge. She sold her condo, repaid the remaining balance, and moved into a smaller apartment 20 minutes outside the city. The insurer chose not to pursue criminal charges after full restitution, and Mom's estate declined further civil action. Natural consequences were quieter than prison cells, but they lasted longer. Valerie lost several real estate clients after the investigation became known. More painfully for her, Aunt Lois stopped repeating her version of events without checking facts first. Uncle Raymond continued calling the situation a misunderstanding. I stopped correcting him. Some people rename wrongdoing because accuracy would require courage. Aunt Lois apologized to me 6 months after the estate meeting. She came to my apartment carrying a grocery store pie and sat at my kitchen table with both hands around her coffee cup. "I praised Valerie because she made caregiving visible," she said. You never talked about what you were doing. I was busy doing it. She nodded. That isn't an excuse for me not noticing. I accepted the apology, but I did not restore the old closeness immediately. Accountability did not create automatic access. Lois kept calling, showed up when she promised, and learned not to bring me updates about Valerie unless I asked. That was enough for a beginning. Valerie and I did not become enemies. We became limited. For the first year, we communicated only through email about estate matters. Later, she sent me a birthday card without a request inside it. I mailed one back. 2 years after Mom died, we met at a quiet cafe. Valerie apologized without mentioning her divorce, her debts, or my salary. I stole your work and then tried to damage your name when you proved it, she said. There isn't a kinder way to describe that. It was the first apology she had ever given me that did not ask me to comfort her afterward. I told her I appreciated the truth. I did not tell her everything was forgiven. Some relationships are repaired slowly. Others are simply prevented from causing more harm. Ours remain somewhere between those two places. I completed my supervisor training and now manage medication distribution records for 3 hospital departments. I leave work on time more often. I take Sunday mornings for myself. When someone calls me capable, I no longer hear an assignment hidden inside the compliment. Rochelle and I still have lunch every few months. She keeps Mom's favorite photograph on her refrigerator, the one where Mom is laughing after refusing her first assisted bath. The brass key stays in a small frame beside my desk. The blue binder sits on the lower shelf of my bookcase. For a long time, I thought its 642 entries proved how much I had sacrificed. Now they mean something different. A record is not only a list of what happened. Sometimes it is the boundary between the truth and the story a louder person wants everyone to believe. In pharmacy work, we reconcile medications because what is written down must match what a person actually received. Families need reconciliation too, not forced forgiveness, but an honest accounting of who gave, who took, who stayed silent, and who was expected to carry the imbalance. I spent most of my life being the capable one. The difference now is that I decide what I am capable of giving. If you have ever watched someone else receive credit for the care you quietly provided, share your story below, and subscribe for more stories of boundaries, accountability, and calm justice.